We live in a world where silence is almost extinct. Notifications chirp, videos autoplay, opinions shout, and comparison sits just one scroll away. We wake up and reach for our phones before we reach for our souls. It's strange, isn't it? We've never been more connected to information, and yet many of us have never felt more spiritually disconnected. The digital world promises stimulation, but often leaves us spiritually starved. And yet, even here, in this glowing screen wilderness, God's voice hasn't gone silent. It's just that the noise got louder. The question is no longer is God speaking. The real question is, are we quiet enough to hear? The digital wilderness is real. The internet is not evil, but it is loud. It's filled with comparison, outrage, endless opinions, spiritual slogans without depth, and distractions disguised as urgency. Our minds stay busy, but our hearts stay empty. We consume more content than any generation before us, yet feel less clarity. Spiritually, it does something quite subtle. It scatters our attention, it fragments our inner world, and, well, it trains us to react instead of reflect. And a scattered heart, really struggles to recognize the whisper of God. Scripture reminds us that God often speaks in stillness, not in the earthquake, not in the fire, not in the wind, but in the gentle whisper. Yet we try to hear that whisper while scrolling through endless noise. Waiting for God's voice while drowning in distractions is like trying to hear a soft melody in a room full of drums. Here's something many people don't realize. God is not in a hurry to shout over what distracts us. He is not competing with social media volume. He doesn't shout to beat the algorithm. He invites us instead. He invites us to withdraw, to slow down, to become present, and to listen. Jesus repeatedly withdrew to lonely places to pray, not because he hated people, but because, well, communion requires separation. You cannot live constantly surrounded by noise and expect intimacy to feel natural. Love grows in quiet places.
Many people fear silence because when the noise fades, truth rises.
You begin to hear your anxiety, your questions, your wounds, your unprocessed emotions. But, it's also in silence that you hear God's reassurance, God's redirection, God's correction, and God's comfort. Silence isn't the absence of sound. Silence is actually the space where God becomes audible. This is not just poetic language, it must become practice. Create sacred phone-free moments. Not the whole day, just intentional pockets like the first 10 minutes after waking, the last 10 minutes before sleep, and, before major decisions. Let your soul wake up before your screen does. So, here's a thought. Replace scrolling with seeking. When you feel the urge to scroll, just ask yourself, am I bored, escaping, or seeking connection? Sometimes, the soul is lonely and the phone is just pretending to be a friend. Open scripture, journal, pray a sentence, sit in silence, breathe. Let your inner world catch up with your outer life. Curate your digital world. What you consume shapes your spirit. Unfollow what fuels comparison. Unfollow what breeds anger. Unfollow what numbs your heart. And unfollow what distracts you from purpose. Follow what reminds you of truth. Follow what calls you higher. Follow what inspires compassion, and follow what brings peace. Your feed is soil. Whatever grows there will root in your heart. It's really important to learn to pause before reacting. Not every post needs your opinion. Not every argument deserves your energy. And, well, not every trigger is an invitation to speak. Sometimes the most spiritual act online is simply not engaging. God's voice doesn't always arrive like thunder. Often it arrives as a nudge in your conscience, or maybe a word that just won't leave your heart. Sometimes it's peace that makes no logical sense, or perhaps discomfort about something wrong and, well, compassion towards someone hurting. He speaks through scripture, people, nature, silence, alignment of events, and inner conviction. Listening means paying attention, not just hearing words. The goal is not to abandon the digital world. Really, it's to stop letting it shape your inner world more than God does. We are called to live in the world, but not be formed by the noise of it. You're allowed to log out. You're allowed to disappear for a while. You're allowed to heal in private. You're allowed to grow in silence. And you are allowed to hear God without posting about it. Your spiritual life doesn't need an audience. Your healing does not require a hashtag. Some of the deepest transformations happen unseen. God's voice is not lost in the noise of the internet. It's actually waiting beneath it, just quietly, patiently. He is not distant. Honestly, we're simply distracted. The invitation today is, well, simple and profound. Step out of the noise. Sit with your soul. Let stillness become your sanctuary. Because when the world grows louder, God doesn't shout. He draws you closer. Grace in the journey.